Hello, Esteban Rodofili with Campus Climate Corps. One question for the moderator. What do you think will take for the U.S. to go back to negotiations and gain back credibility? Because it's true that the first time that Trump got out of the Paris Agreement, well, it was one time, but this is the second time, and he's not sending delegates. So, what do you think will take in terms of actions, in terms of organization to get the U.S. back?
Well, do the states want? Could you hear that? I can answer it. Then, if anybody wants to speak to this, happy to. In the U.S., we have elections, and the president and the executive branch decide how they will participate in elections. So there will be elections in the future, and this will surely be on the ballot, as it was particularly in 2020, when there was concern that the U.S. was not doing enough. And I don't think that people who voted for the president necessarily understood exactly just how far we would withdraw from the climate process. But I think when we come back, it'll be up to a future administration to figure out how to engage, and it'll be up to parties to engage with them. The one thing I will say is that my experience is, governments deal with the governments in power, so they don't necessarily look back or look forward. Everyone is looking to take advantage of the opportunities that they have, and that's very much true at this COP. It's true at every COP. But I think the more important thing, and the message for this panel, is that there's an enormous amount going on in the United States to continue to solve these problems. And that the accumulated amount of that effort is very, very consequential. And moreover, we talked about the alliances that part of our coalitions and so forth. The actions extend beyond our coalitions. And I think that if you were to look across the United States, you would see climate action happening in thousands of jurisdictions. And that's a foundation. And it will remain a foundation. So, I sort of feel like this is an issue where, for better or worse, the science is what it is, and the climate change will become more evident, and views will evolve about what we have to do. So, I don't know if I see you want to answer too.
I want to add one last thing. Sustainable sourcing of food matters to a lot of people, like everyone. And so sustainable sourcing of food, well, it seems like businesses are changing their tenor, that maybe it's a language change. I don't see their work ending as far as convening roundtables to really try to figure out how can we make sure that Africa is as capable of food production as the United States of America is, or Southeast Asia is able to do this. And so I think it's really important to think it's not just government. Government, for me, has a huge role to play with the right policies. But policies most likely are giving the right signals to a marketplace for those of us who live in a capitalist society, and for people to want to get there faster and that would not leave anyone behind. And so I just want to say that I think we have to remember there are multiple parties here, and government has a hugely important role, but it's not the only role to play.
This is probably a controversial statement, but I think it's pretty clear that in American democracy, the power is shifting from the federal level to the state level. And that may be a permanent change. Whether you're looking at policy that other governments can rely on, or policy that investors and capital can rely on, it's not clear that the federal government is a trusted partner, or will be in the future, frankly. So some of this may be irreparable damage, but I can tell you from New Mexico, our adaptation, and I've seen other states do the same, is to look at what we do and how alternative financing can be supported, for example. You don't get projects built by relying on federal tax credits and federal policy anymore. So if we have rules that lead the nation, we'll simply evangelize those rules, create coalitions among states to share those rules, and we'll also learn from our partners. Our clean transportation fuel standard, we learned from California. Our solar and wind tax credits, we pulled from many parts of the U.S. and also internationally. And then finally, our decarbonization, coming back to oil and gas, that's a global effort. That's something that, for our part of the supply chain, we can control, we can certify, we can give people trust and assurance that we're doing what we can to make it as clean as possible. But we also have to look at our partners who do international shipping overseas, land-based, and then the people that are actually consuming and using that oil or gas on the other side. Gas to power, that full supply chain needs to be locked down and certified. So that requires the private markets buying in and a global international coalition. We're trying to build that from our state.
And Travis says something very important. The financing will be probably the biggest challenge in this transition to more state leadership in all of this. And so it's not just the buyers of products, it's the people who finance the operations that make it happen.
Maybe I can finish with one more question, which follows on to yours, because I see two trends from our, from where we sit, but I'm curious how this plays out from where you are. The first is that clean energy is now, in many cases, more affordable than traditional fossil fuel-based energy. So, what we hear from cities and states is that this is consistent with the affordability agenda. And the second is that, yes, we have drawn back from, our commitment to the energy transition, but if you're a business, you don't know how long that withdrawal will last. And so I have noticed an enormous interest in nuclear as a future baseload, in particular from the tech industry. And I suspect it has to do with their calculation that the energy transition is just in a little recession now, but it will be back. And I'm curious whether that is something that you experience from your vantage point as you all carry out your policies.
Yes, I can speak to, from the nuclear perspective, so in Tennessee we're seeing unprecedented load growth, and many states are, for the first time in decades. That's due to a number of factors. Data centers are obviously a huge piece of it, but it's not just data centers. In Tennessee, we're having unprecedented population growth. We're seeing massive amounts of industrial electrification, partly because we have some of the most affordable electricity rates in the Tennessee Valley. TVA's rates are cheaper than 70% of the U.S. And then transportation electrification, other ways in which we're anticipating load growth. And so nuclear, given that it can be firm and dispatchable and carbon-free, it's a great solution for us. And so I think that's one reason why we're leaning into it. I think Tennessee also acknowledges that in order to maintain the quality of life that we have today, we have to have not only a vibrant economy, but also a clean environment. They have to go hand in hand. And so I think that informs a lot of the decisions that Tennessee is making, whether or not it's about quote-unquote climate, it's maintaining that quality of life. And as you mentioned, a lot of these solutions, the cleaner tech solutions, are more affordable at the end of the day, and the technology can speak for itself. And so that's good.
Well, that is a wonderful way to finish the session, and please give a round of applause to our wonderful panelists.